Wel- welcome, welcome to the second part of this video. Now we will read about sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves formation of male and female gametes, either by the same individual or by different individuals of the opposite sex. These gametes fuse to form the zygote, which develops to form the new organism. These gametes fuse. It is an elaborate, complex, and slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. Because of the fusion of male and female gametes, sexual reproduction results in offspring that are not identical to parents or among themselves, which means they are not identical to parents and among their brothers, siblings. A study of diverse organisms, plant, animals, or fungi so that how they differ so greatly in internal physiology, internal structure, and physiology. When it comes to the mode of sexual reproduction, surprisingly, they share a similar pattern. Let us first discuss what features are common to these diverse organisms. All the organisms have to reach a certain stage of growth and maturity in their life before they can reproduce sexually. The period and growth of the is called juvenile phase. It is also known as vegetative phase in plants. This phase is of variable duration in different organisms. The end of juvenile vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of the reproductive phase, can be seen easily in the higher plants where they comes to be flower. How does it take for marigold, rice, wheat, coconut, mango tree plants to come to flower? It takes about they generally marigold takes about 1 year, and these 1 months. Rice and wheat, coconut is approximately one more than 1 year, and mango is 2 3 years. It will take 2 years. In some plants where flowering occurs more than once, what will you call what would you call the interflowering period, juvenile or mature? This will be called as mature phase. Observe a few trees in your area. Do they flower during the same month year after year? Yes, all have the same period. They they flower in the same during period. Why do you think the availability of fruit like mango, apple, jackfruit, etc. is seasonally? Because their flowers come seasonally, so their fruits come seasonally. Are there some plants that flower throughout the year and some others that show seasonal flowering? Yes, there are. Plants, the annual and the biennial types, show clear-cut vegetative, reproductive, and senescent phase. But in the perennial species, it is very difficult to clearly define these phases. A few plants exhibit unusual phenomena. Some of these, some of them, such as bamboo species, flower only once in their lifespan, generally after 50 to 100 hours, 100 years, produce large number of fruits and die. Another plant, Astrobilanthus kunthiana, which is also known as Nil Kuranji, flowers once in 12 years. It is mostly found in Kerala region. Yes, south. In south, it is found in south. As many of you would know, this flower during September and October 2016, means it will take 2018, yeah, and now it is 2022, so it will be time. Its mass flowering transformed large tract of hilly areas in Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu into blue stretches, attract a large number of tourists. In animals, the juvenile phase is followed by morphological and physiological changes prior to active reproductive behavior. The reproductive phase is also of variable duration in different organisms. Can you list the changes seen in human beings that are indicative of reproductive maturity? Yeah, it is very common seen in male at the time of adolescence. Among animals, for example, birds, do they lay eggs all through the years? No, they are also seasonal, or it is seasonal. They are also seasonal. What about other animals like lizards and frogs? They are also seasonal. You will notice that birds living in nature lays eggs only seasonally. However, the birds in captivity, as in poultry farm, can be made to lay eggs throughout the year. In this case, laying eggs is not related to the reproduction, but is a commercial exploitation in captive birds in captivity. The females of placental mammals exhibit cyclic changes in the activity of ovaries, s.st ducts, as well as hormone during the reproductive phase. In non-primate animals like cows, sheep, rats, deer, tigers, the such cycle is known as Austria cycle. Whereas in primates, it is known as menstrual cycle. Many mammals, especially those living in natural wild conditions, exhibit such cycle only during favorable season in their reproductive phase and are called as seasonal breeders. Many other mammals are reproductively active throughout their reproductive phase and hence are called continuous breeders. Many mammals do continuous breeders. That we all grow old if we live long enough is something that we recognize. But what is meant by growing old? The end of reproductive phase can be considered as one of the parameter of senses, the end of or old age. There are concomitant changes in the body like slowing of metabolism during the last phase of lifespan. Old age ultimately leads to death. In both plants and animals, hormones are responsible for the transition between these three phases. Interaction between hormones and certain environmental factors regulate the reproductive processes and the associated behavioral expression of organism. Events in sexual reproduction. After attainment of maturity, all sexually reproducing organisms exhibit events and processes that have remarkable fundamental similarities, even though the structures associated with sexual reproduction are indeed very difficult. The event of sexual reproduction, though elaborate and complex, follow a regular sequence. Sexual reproduction is characterized by the fusion or fertilization of the male and the female gametes, the formation of zygote and embryogenesis. For convenience, these sequence events may be grouped into three distinct stages, namely pre-fertilization, fertilization, and pro-fertilization. Post-fertilization event. Pre-fertilization event. These includes all the events of sexual reproduction prior to the fusion of gametes. Two main pre-fertilization events are gametogenesis and gamete transfer. What is gametogenesis? As you are already aware, gametogenesis refers to the process of formation of two types of gametes, male gametes and female gametes. Gametes are haploid cells. In some algae, the two gametes are so similar in appearance that it is not possible to categorize them into male and female gametes. Hence, they are known as homologous, homogamete, or isogametes. However, in majority of sexually reproducing organisms, the gamete produced are of two morphological distinct types, which is known as heterogametes. In such organism, the male is known as antherozoite or sperm, and the female gamete is known as egg or ovum. Sexuality in organism. Sexual reproduction in organism generally involves the fusion of gamete from two different individuals, but this is not always true. From your recollection of examples studied in class 11, can you identify case where self-fertilization is observed? Or of course, citing some example in plant is easy. Plants may have both male and female reproductive structures in the same plant, bisexual, or on different plants, unisexual. Male and female on the same as bisexual, and the different is known as unisexual. In several fungi and plants, terms such as homothallic and monoecious are used to denote bisexual conditions, and heterothallic and dioecious are terms used to describe unisexual. In flowering plant, the unisexual male flower is staminate, bearing stamen, while the female is pistillate, bearing pistils. In some flowering plant, both male and female flowers may be present on the same individuals, which is known as monoecious, and the separate individuals is dioecious. Some examples of monoecious plants are cucurbits, coconuts, and dioecious, papaya, and dill palm. Name the type of gametes that are found in the stamens. Stamens में form होता है sperms, and pistillates form ovum. What about animals? Are individuals of all animals, all species, either male or female, or there are species which possess both reproductive organs? You probably can make a list of several unisexual animal species. Earthworm, sponge, tapeworm, and leech are the example of bisexual animals that possess both male and female, which is also known as hermaphrodites. Cockroaches. Cockroach is an unisexual species. Cell division during gamete formation. Gamete in all heterogametic species are of two types, mainly male and female. Gametes are haploid how the parent's plant body, parent plant body from which they arise, they may be either haploid or diploid. A haploid plant body produces gamete by mitosis. Does this mean that meiosis never occurs in organisms that are haploid? No. After the formation of embryo, uh, they repeatedly mitote, and after for the new spores they form meiosis, and it happens. Carefully example the flow chart of life cycle of fungi that you have studied in class 11th to get a suitable answer. Yes. Several organisms belonging to Monera, fungi, algae, and bryophytes have haploid body, but in organisms belonging to pteridophyte, gymnosperms, and angiosperms are have diploids. It is obvious that meiosis reduction division has to occur if the haploid body has to produce a haploid gamete. These are very important, so one should remember this. In diploid organism, specialized cells called myocytes. Myocytes are the gamete mother cell undergoing meiosis. At the end of meiosis, only one set of chromosomes get incorporated into each gamete. Carefully study table 1.1, which is above, and fill the diploid and haploid chromosome number of organisms. Is there any relationship in the number of chromosomes of myocyte and gametes? Yes, which is half gamete transfer. After their formation, male and female gamete must be physically brought together to facilitate fusion, which is also known as fertilization. Have you ever wondered how the gamete meets? In a majority of organisms, male gamete is motile and the female gamete is stationary. Male gamete is motile and female is stationary. Exceptions are of few fungi and algae, in which both type of gametes are motile there is a need for medium through which the male gamete move. In several examples, like algae, bryophytes, and pteridophytes, water is the medium through which the gamete transfer takes place. A large number of male gametes, however, fail to reach the female gametes. To compensate this loss of male gamete during transport, the number of male gamete produced is several thousand times the number of female gametes. In seeds, plants, pollen grains are the carriers of male gametes and ovule have the egg. Pollen grains are the carrier of male gametes and the ovule have egg. Pollen grain produced by anther, therefore they have to be transferred to the stigma before it can lead to fertilization. In bisexual self-fertilizing plants examples, peas, transfer of pollen grain to stigma is relatively easy as anther and stigma are located close to each other. Pollen grain soon after they shed come in contact with the stigma, but in cross-pollinating plants, a specialized event known as pollination. Pollination facilitates transfer of pollen grains to the stigma. Pollen grains germinate on the stigma and the pollen tube carrying the male gamete reach the ovule and discharge male gamete near the egg. In dioecious animals, since male and female gametes are produced in different individuals, the organism must have to evolve a special mechanism for gamete transfer. Successful transfer and coming together of gamete is essential for the most critical event in sexual reproduction, the fertilization. It is often asked questions, the most critical event in sexual reproduction. Now, fertilization. The most vital event of sexual reproduction is perhaps the fusion of gametes. This process, called syngamy, results in the formation of diploid zygote. The term fertilization is also often used for this process. The terms syngamy and fertilization are frequently used interchangeably. Syngamy and fertilization can be used. What would happen if syngamy does not occur? However, it has to be mentioned here that in some organisms like rotifers, honeybees, and even some lizards and birds, turkey, these are the where female gamete undergoes development to form a new organism without fertilization. This is also known as parthenogenesis. Where does syngamy occurs? In most aquatic organisms, such as majority of algae and fishes, as well as amphibians, syngamy occurs in external medium, but outside the body of the organism. This type of gamete fusion is known as external fertilization. Organisms exhibiting external fertilization show great synchrony between the sexes and release a large number of gametes into the surrounding medium in order to enhance the chances of syngamy. This happens in the bony fishes and frogs, where a large number of offsprings are produced. A major advantage of this is the offspring are extremely. The major disadvantage is that the organisms are extremely vulnerable to predators, threatening their survival up to adulthood. In many terrestrial organisms belonging to fungi, higher animals such as reptiles, birds, mammals, and in a majority of plants, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, and angiosperms, syngamy occurs inside the body of the females. Hence, it is known as internal fertilization. All these organisms eggs is formed inside the female body where they fuses with the male gamete. In organism exhibiting internal fertilization, the male gamete is motile and has to reach the egg in order to fuse with it. In this event, how the number of sperms produced is very large. there is a significant reduction in the number of egg produced in seed plants. However, the non-motile male gamete are carried to female gamete by pollen tube. Post-fertilization event in sexual reproduction after formation of zygote are called post-fertilization. What is zygote? Formation of diploid zygote is universal in all sexually reproducing organisms. In organisms with external fertilization, zygote is formed in an external medium, usually water, whereas in those exhibiting internal fertilization, zygote is formed inside the body of the organism. Further development of the zygote depends on the type of lifespan the organism has and the environment it is exposed to. In organisms belonging to fungi and algae, zygote develops a thick ball that is resistant to desiccation and damage. It undergoes a period of rest before germination. In organisms with haplontic life cycle, zygote divides by meiosis to form haploid spores that grow into individuals. Zygote is the vital link that ensures continuity of a species between organisms of one generation to the next. Every sexually reproducing organism, including human being, begin life with a single cell, the zygote. Now, embryogenesis. Embryogenesis refers to the process of development of embryo from the zygote. During embryogenesis, zygote undergo cell division, which is mitosis, and cell differentiation. While cell division increases the number of cells in the developing embryo, cell differentiation helps groups of cells to undergo certain modification to form a specialized tissue and organs to form an organism. You have studies about the process of cell division and differentiation in the previous class. Animals are categorized into oviparous and viviparous based on whether the development of the zygote takes place inside the body or outside the body of the female. That means whether they lay fertilized, unfertilized egg or give birth to young ones. In oviparous animals like reptiles and birds, fertilized eggs are covered with hard calcareous cells are laid in a safe environment. After a period of incubation, young ones hatch out. On the other hand, in viviparous animals, majority of mammals, including human beings, the zygote develops inside the one of the female body. After attaining a certain stage of growth, the young one has to be delivered out of the body of the female organism. Because of proper embryonic care and protection, the chance of survival of young ones is greater in viviparous organism. In flowering plant, the zygote is formed inside the ovule. After fertilization, the sepals, pattern, and these are the most important. Fail off. Can you name a plant in which sepal remain attached? The pistil, however, remain attached to the plant. The zygote developed into embryo and the ovule. Zygote developed into embryo and the ovule developed into the seed. The ovary developed into the fruit, which develops a thick pericarp that is protective in function. After dispersal, seed germination under favorable condition to produce new plant. Summary. Reproduction enables a species to live generation per generation. Reproduction in organism can be broadly classified into asexual and sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction does not involve the fusion of gametes. It is common in organisms that have a relatively simple organization such as fungi, algae, and some invertebrate animals. Offspring formed by asexual reproduction are identical and can be referred to as clones. Zoospores, conidia, etc. are the most common asexual structures formed in several stages of algae and fungi. Budding and the gemule formation are the common asexual method can be seen in lower animals. Prokaryotes and unicellular organisms reproduce asexually by cell division boundary fission of the parent cell. In several aquatic and terrestrial species of angiosperm structures, as runners, rhizomes, suckers, tubers, offsets, etc., are capable of giving rise to new offspring. This method of asexual reproduction is generally referred to as a vegetative propagation. Sexual reproduction involves the formation and fusion of gametes. It is a complex and slower process as compared to asexual reproduction. Most of the higher animals reproduced almost entirely by sexual method. Event of sexual reproduction may be categorized into pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization event. Pre-fertilization event includes gametogenesis and gamete transfer, while post-fertilization event includes the formation of zygote and the embryogenesis. Organism may be bisexual or unisexual. Sexuality in plants is varied particularly in angiosperm due to the production of diverse types of flowers. Plants are defined as monoecious and dioecious. Flowers may be bisexual or unisexual flowers. Gametes are haploid in nature and usually a direct product of meiotic division, except in haploid organisms where gametes are formed by mitosis. Transfer of male gamete is an essential event in sexual reproduction. It is relatively easy in bisexual organisms. In unisexual animals, it occurs by copulation or simultaneous release. In angiosperms, a special process called pollination ensures transfer of pollen grain which carry the pollen grains to the stigma. Syngamy, which is also known as fertilization, occurs between the male and the female gametes. Syngamy may occur either external outside the body of organism or internal inside the body. Syngamy leads to formation of a specialized cell called zygote. The process of development of embryo from the zygote is called embryogenesis. In animals, the zygote starts developing soon after its formation. Animals may be either oviparous, embryonical protection and care are better in viviparous organism. In flowering plants after fertilization, ovary develops into fruit, ovule mature into seed. Inside the mature seed is the progenitor of the next generation, known as the embryo.